Tereglion was the only place it made sense for the Sentinel to go now. Ever since his lab had burned down, he stayed at Vax's apartment, but with nowhere else to go, the small town felt appropriate. It wasn't long before he noticed what was on the townfolk's minds as he walked through the crowds of people. He caught a few conversations about what happened in New York, the tragedy and loss of another president, and this time, Quinn Carter. This town was anything but an escape. The Sentinel flashed away again, to the same town, this time to the year 2051, long before the start of the Galactic War, before the public knew of the Sentinel. He sat at a bench in the park and waited, listening to the locals chatting. "Come on, save some for Matrona. There's Auntie, go home now, I'll be there soon." The Sentinel heard the sentence the same way he heard the others, as background chatter, but it stood out much more as it echoed in his mind. That name. He knew it wasn't common. He stood up quickly, looking around the direction he had heard the voice from. He spotted a small child, blonde hair, holding a bag of chips, walking away from his mother. Instinctively, the Sentinel followed the boy. He followed him to a plaza of shops and restaurants and lost him in the sea of people. Having lost him so quickly, the Sentinel went through countless shops and boutiques to find them. Soon enough, he found the same restaurant he had visited with Vax not long before, and walked toward it, holding the box in his hands. "Welcome, sir." A short waitress greeted him. "What can I get for you today?" "Nothing, I'm fine." The Sentinel sat down at a bar stool. "I'll give you a minute or two to decide, but these seats are for customers only," the waitress insisted. "You'll have an orange juice, too?" said a woman who sat near the Sentinel. The Sentinel turned his attention to her. Thanks." "What's your name?" The woman was handed a plate of food, as if the workers knew what she wanted. She pushed her long dark hair away from her face. The Sentinel hesitated. "AJ," he answered. "Took you long enough." The woman smiled. "Amara." She held out her hand. The Sentinel shook it and nodded. "I don't recognize you. What brings you to Tereglion?" "There's nowhere else to go." The Sentinel avoided eye contact. "Where are you from?" Amara asked. "Cowboy land?" She mocked the Sentinel's outfit. The Sentinel stayed silent. "Well, if you hang around here for long enough that you get bored, you can call me." Amara handed the Sentinel a paper with her number on it. "I don't have a phone," he replied. "So you're a cowboy and a hipster?" Amara chuckled, amused, lightly punching the Sentinel's shoulder. He gave her a look she recognized. "Really, though, where are you from?" "I've seen everyone come in and out of this restaurant, but never you." The Sentinel stood, letting go of the box, and let it float up to his shoulders. Amara was taken aback. The Sentinel ignored her and walked away. Amara chased after him, grabbing his coat and sleeve. "Who are you? What is that?" she asked again. "Why do you care so much?" The Sentinel snapped back. He calmed himself down. "I told you, I'm AJ." "What's with the cube?" "Nothing much."
I take offense to that.
The box spoke, flashing its lights. "That's not nothing much. What the hell is it?" There was a short pause between them before Amara spoke up again. "You know, if you need a place to stay until you get up on your feet again, you can come with me." "No, it's fine, really. I just needed some time to gather myself." "Why come here?" "Don't know. Just felt right, I guess." The Sentinel shoved Amara's number in his coat pocket. "Thank you for the offer, but I'm fine." The Sentinel walked away, leaving Amara. As he walked back to the park bench, he took the paper out of his pocket and unraveled it. He stopped in his tracks as he read the name back. Amara Tempus. There it was again, a name he knew full well wasn't common. Seeing it in front of him only reinforced the idea that he had heard Matrona's name not much earlier. He quickly turned around and ran back to find Amara, his coat flying up in the wind behind him. He reached the plaza, standing in an open absence of people, looking around desperately for any sign of the strange woman. "Amara?" he called out, gaining the attention of a few people at most. "Amara!" He called out again in desperation. He spotted the woman and ran after her. A maze of streets vexed him. He lost track of Amara once again. With every turn, he swore he had seen the same narrow, winding, hilly streets as every other. The tall buildings on either side closed him in a claustrophobic loop of cobbled streets and potted plants. He stopped by a stranger, frantically requesting help. "Excuse me, can I borrow your phone?" he asked. "Sure." The stranger hesitantly obliged, handing over his phone. The Sentinel punched in Amara's number as quickly as possible. "Hello?" She answered quite quickly, too. "Amara, it's me, AJ." "I can see that." Amara laughed. The Sentinel took note of the sound quality. It seemed to be too real to be just over the phone. "What?" He turned, and the door of the house nearest him was open, with Amara standing at the open doorway, phone in hand. The Sentinel hung up and handed it back to the stranger. "Thanks?" The stranger quickly put away his phone and shuffled away. "Who are you?" The Sentinel asked. "Oh, now I'm the interesting one?" Amara waited. Come in." She gestured to the door. The Sentinel walked in. "You've got to be kidding me, Amara. Another one?" A voice echoed from the room. Oh, come on, Ayla, this one actually needs help. He's new here. Amara rationalized herself to the voice. You can't always assume the worst of me. That's the third stranger you've dragged in this week. A woman appeared in the living room, looking down at Amara and the Sentinel judgmentally. She leaned against the end of the hallway wall, tired and exasperated. Her shirt was half tucked in and her hair was a mess, but the Sentinel could tell she had tried for 3 separate buns in the back of her head. She had bags under her eyes. It was clear who ran the house. That's Ayla, my sister. Amara nodded to Ayla, introducing her to the Sentinel. And this is AJ. Amara introduced the Sentinel to Ayla. Nice outfit, Ayla said with a deadpan sarcasm. You're getting desperate, Mari. She jabbed to her sister. Thanks. The Sentinel sat down at the nearest chair. The sound of a crying child came down the hallway. I'll get it. Ayla sighed, leaving the room. Alright, you go first. What's your deal? Amara asked. I'm the Sentinel. Is that supposed to mean anything to me? Amara lifted an eyebrow sarcastically and curiously. I wouldn't expect so, no. And so what's up with that? It's a time machine. Sure, Amara nodded. And you're a cowboy? On accident. Right. Amara looked around. She pulled out her phone and texted her sister. Okay, maybe I am in over my head with this one. I think he's crazy. Save me? Which is why I want to know who you are, the Sentinel said as Amara texted. Amara looked up and teased the Sentinel, saying, I'm a princess from space. Pretty much a big deal. Yeah, I don't know why I thought you'd believe me. The Sentinel chuckled. I know your last name. The Sentinel looked away, thinking, then back at Amara. What year is it, 2051? Assuming it is, what? Do you know of any 4 to 5-year-olds with the same last name? Amara froze. A text from Ayla read, Should I call the cops? LOL. Amara's thumb hovered over an unsent response. Yes. The Sentinel sat back in his seat, eyes wide in disbelief. Amara's face answered his question. Ayla walked into the room from the hallway, holding hands with 2 children. A small girl with blonde hair and bluish-green eyes, and a slightly taller boy with blonde hair and brown eyes. The Sentinel stood up, staring at the little girl. Oh, you're still here. Lasted longer than any of the others Amara's brought over. The kids usually scare him off. Amara stood from the couch and shook her head, trying to get Ayla to back away. She sent the message. The Sentinel stood still, staring in awe. The little one's 4. Matrona. Ayla swung Matrona's arm. And the little troublemaker here is Nick. He'll be 7 next month. She paused and took her phone from her pocket. The Sentinel walked up to Matrona, knelt before her, and stared into her eyes. Matrona. He tried not to cry. I'm sorry. He turned to Nick, holding back tears. You had a brother. You said you were a time traveler? Amara asked, trying to break the awkwardness. Ayla looked down at the Sentinel, confused. She eyed her sister. They communicated with subtle eyebrow raises and twitches of their eyes. The Sentinel stood up and turned towards Amara. I knew your daughter. I knew her when she was 25. I met her when she was 5. That's only half a year from now. Shouldn't we have met by now if that was true? The Sentinel paused. We're meeting right now. He's lying, Ayla laughed. Come on, Mari, a time traveler? Do you honestly believe that? Amara shook her head. I'd much rather believe that than think this guy's a creep. Please understand that there's no way I can explain this without sounding like a creep, the Sentinel said, holding out his hands to diffuse the tension. Ayla stood protectively in front of Nick and Matrona. She looked up at the Sentinel, skeptically. Prove it. How? The Sentinel laughed. Why are you asking me? You're the time traveler. Ayla stood back slightly. The Sentinel looked down at Matrona and then up at his floating box. He thought for a while. I really shouldn't. He held out for his box. I'm too dangerous. Amara walked up close to the Sentinel, holding out her hand for the box. No, don't! The Sentinel tried to push her away, but they were off in a flash before he could do anything about it. They appeared in the only place the Sentinel could think of. Sentinel! Thank goodness you're here. I couldn't figure out how to call you with this thing. Vax? The Sentinel stammered. They showed up in Vax's apartment. We teleported! Amara looked around in awe. I thought it would be something more like a spaceship. I think I'm going to throw up. Amara held her stomach. Vax crossed her arms. Are you traveling with somebody else already? Listen, whatever. Vax looked away. Look, I need you right now. Why? The building shook as a massive explosion blasted the city. The Sentinel ran to the balcony, looking over the city. Countless clone soldiers marched through the streets, and Rogar stood in the middle of the army, surrounded by a protective wall of terrors. What's wrong? Amara walked to the balcony, overlooking the soldiers. We're under attack, Vax spoke softly.